Alright, now that we've extensively covered how the secondary functionality of main camera is going to be designed, let's go ahead and in this video we'll create our TP camera class. We'll get that secondary functionality in place, and then we can move on taking a look at our primary functionality.
Alright, let's go to our project view, scripts folder, right click. We're going to create a new C# script. It's going to call it new behavior script by default. I'm going to hit F2 to rename it. We're going to call it TP_camera. Hit enter, right click, sync the mono develop project just to make sure everything gets updated. Once that's done, go ahead and right click, tell it to reload our project, and when we've got some cleanup to do in here, we'll actually come up to new behavior script underscore TP camera, move over, wrap our curly brace down. I'm going to delete the comments that are here, remove the excess spacing here, wrap this over. For now I'm going to leave these existing methods. We'll address them later.
Okay.
We'll go and set up our two fields that we were talking about. We'll have our public static, and it looks like IntelliSense doesn't want to play today, so we'll do public static TP camera. We'll call this one instance. Our next field will be public transform, and this will be the target lookout with a capital T. So that will get our two main fields in place.
Now, do you want to go ahead and handle the awake method?
Sure, why not? Let's go ahead and hit enter a couple times, type void awake, put some curly braces in here.
Because really all it's going to be doing is setting that
instance
static
equals
instance.
this.
Yeah.
Just like we did with the previous two classes. Now, to work with our big class, we're going to make this a public because we want to be able to access it external to the TP camera class.
Right, because TP controller is the one that actually ends up calling this.
Yep. And we don't want to have an instance of TP camera to run this, so we want to make this static. So it'll be public static. Return type is going to be void, and its name is use existing or create new main camera. Now originally I wanted to name this use existing or create new main camera and target.
Wow. Yeah.
But that got a little bit long, so I shortened it up.
Yeah, so you cut off chapters 3 through 5.
Yep. My fingers got sore. I actually got a blister.
I understand.
I had to call it.
I understand.
All right. Now, we had mentioned that we're going to have 3 fields inside of here that are locals.
Okay.
So the first 2 are going to be game objects. So we're going to make 2 game object ones. The first one will be temp camera. Our second will be another game object of
lowercase look at target.
Yep. So we'll call this target look at. Our last local is going to be of type TP camera, and we're going to call this one my camera. Now we've got those in place. We need to go looking for stuff.
Okay.
So we're going to go look and see if there's a main camera in the scene. We're going to do that by calling up the camera class's property called main camera. And we're going to check if it is not equal to null, that means it exists. So if it exists, we're going to do something, but if it doesn't exist, we're going to do something else. So I'll put all of those in to start. Now if it exists, we're going to take our temp camera field, and we're going to tell it to be equal to the camera dot main camera, and because main camera isn't actually a game object itself, we're going to tell it to equal its game object.
Okay.
Now if it doesn't exist, we need to create one, which means we're going to do temp camera equals new game object. Make sure I spell it right, seeing how IntelliSense is still not working. And we're going to name this main camera. You could technically name this anything you wanted to, but to make it easy to see in our hierarchy, I'm going to name it main camera.
Sure.
Now, with that being in place, we need to add a component to it. So we're going to say temp camera dot add component. The component I want to add to this is going to be a camera component. If I don't add a camera component, this game object is not going to be a camera. So with that added, we need to tag our camera. So I'll do temp camera dot tag, and that is going to equal main camera. This is what actually makes this camera the main camera.
Okay.
So at this point, we've looked in our scene, we've either found the main camera that exists or we've created one. But we're still not done with setting up the camera itself, because we have to get the TP camera script attached to that camera.
Right.
So to achieve that, we're going to do temp camera dot add component, and the component that we're going to add is going to be a TP camera, and that's a script component that is going to add of using the TP camera class that we're just created right now.
All right.
So we add that component. Now we need to go find that component and get a reference to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to say my camera equals temp camera dot not find, get component, and we're looking for the TP camera component, and we need to tell it to cast it as a TP camera object, so it fits inside of our field that we're holding.
Gotcha.
So that is where we pause and say, okay, we've found, or we made our camera, we've added our script to it. We're going to pause at this point because now we have a reference to our TP camera script, but we need a lookup. So we need to go find our target lookup.
Right. Our next goal here will be to assign our lookup, but before we do that, we've got to go look and make sure we have one.
Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our lowercase target lookup, and we're going to assign it to whatever gets returned from game object dot find, and we're looking for target lookup. Now this is going to return a game object, so I have to cast this as a game object. Now if it finds target lookup, we're going to get a reference to that target lookup. If it doesn't find it, we're going to get a null. So we have to check to see if we found it. So we're basically saying if target lookup equals null, it means we didn't find anything. So we have to create it. So what we'll do is we'll say target lookup equals a new game object, and I'm going to give it the name target lookup, and I'm going to position it. And I do that by telling target lookup dot transform dot position equals a vector 3 0, which is a 0 dot vector 3.
Okay.
So that's going to position our target lookup at the world origin.
Mm-hmm.
Now the last part of this is we need to go back to my camera, the reference that we held, and we need to assign its target lookup transform field to be the transform of this target lookup.
Okay.
So to do that, we type in my camera dot target lookup with a capital T equals lowercase target lookup dot transform. So what we're doing is we're taking our local target lookup that we either found or created, and we're taking its transform and we're sending it to the public target lookup field that we saved for the instance of my camera. So I'm going to hit Control-Shift-B to see if I built it successfully, which is surprising since how I didn't have IntelliSense. It's like, oh, I rely on IntelliSense.
I know you do.
It's my friend.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give it once over to make sure everything's there. I have my public static instance. I have a transform target look at. We assign instance to be a reference to this in awake. And we have our method, which goes through. It looks to see if a camera exists. If it does, we use it. If not, we create it. We attach our TP camera script to it. Hold it for a sec, go looking for the target look at. If we find it, we use it. If not, we create one, set it at the world's origin, and when we tell my camera to use that look at target. So everything there seems to be in place. So the next step is to go back to TP controller, and in this awake, after it's done all its initialization of its static fields, we're going to tell it to go to TP_camera, and IntelliSense works here, go figure. So TP camera, we're going to say use existing or create new main camera. That's going to tell Unity when we start the game and TP controller is awake is called, it's going to go and set up the camera, the main camera, create it if it needs to, and look for a target, create that if it needs to, and that should put everything in place.
Right, we've put all this functionality in, we just haven't called it yet. That's going to be called here inside of TP controller.
Right. So with all of this in place, hopefully all of our code is working. We'll come back to Unity. As you can see here, we've now got our TP camera. We have a camera in our scene. It has no script to it, but we are flagged as a main camera, so we actually have one. But if you look at our scene, we have no target look at. So in this case, if our code is working correctly, our camera is going to get a TP camera script attached to it, and we're going to create a target look at the world origin.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and hit play.
Give it a shot.
So
there's our script.
Yep. So if you see, here's our script. It's assigned our target look at to target look at, so it's created a new object. If I go back to our scene view,
you can already see its transforms are all set to 0.
Yep, here it is. It's at world origin. So it's created our look at for us because we forgot to put one in, and it's taking control of the existing camera.
Awesome.
So let's reverse this up and test the other possible scenario.
Okay.
So let's delete our main camera. So we have no main camera in our scene. And let's create an empty game object. And we'll name this empty game object target look at. And we'll take our target look at, we'll parent it into our controller. I'll zero out its X and Z, and I'll raise it up kind of about eye level on our character. So now we have a target look at, but no camera. So when I hit play, if everything works right, it should create a camera for us. We should have the TP camera script attached to it, and it should point to this target look at game object that we created. So we'll hit play. We've got a main camera created. Here's its TP camera script component. It's been added, and it's pointing at target look at, which is the target look at that we created. If we go back to scene view and orbit, you can see that our camera is at the world origin. Because we had to create it, we haven't given it any offset, so it doesn't know how to move. That's functionality that we still have yet to program.
That'll be part of the primary functionality.
So with that, that is everything that I wanted to accomplish with getting the secondary functionality in place and functional.
All right, so from here on out, we can start taking a look at that primary functionality of the TP camera class, but that will wrap things up for this video. Thanks for watching.